Welcome to Recurring Nightmares, episode 47. I am Jeff, joined as always by Chris.
Hey.
And we went a little bit out of our comfort zone this month. Two pretty different movies for our show. We usually do horror or horror adjacent. Although I guess you could argue that these are kind of scary.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah. We're doing two classic films kind of about the media. And it should be interesting to talk about. First time watch on both of them for me, I think for you as well.
Yes.
And we will get into them in a little bit. But first, as always, we always start off with what we've been watching. Chris, what have you been up to over the last few weeks? Have you been watching anything?
A little bit. I'll talk about a few things here. First up, I watched a movie on Screambox called Here for Blood. Screambox and it's a Bloody Disgusting. I think they're the ones that basically own Screambox. They were pushing this movie, Here for Blood. It was supposed to be like a wrestling horror comedy, which is a weird combo, but like. The buzz on it seemed pretty decent. I thought it was brand new. It's not. This movie is a year and a half old. Came out in 2022. And I don't know, calling it a wrestling movie is a little weird. The main character, he is a professional wrestler. Like, that's his occupation in the movie. So he's this big beefcake. But this is a movie that is... He's a babysitter. He's babysitting this kid. And like bad shit happens. And like it's like a home invasion, but they're like demons, and he is protecting.
But he's big wrestler dude.
Yeah, so like that's the like, and he doesn't know how to really interact with kids or anybody because like that's what they kind of paint this wrestler dude out as, and it's fine. It's kind of funny. It was enjoyable enough for like, it's like I think 100 minutes long. The action's not super great, but there's some good gore in it. There's some really funny lines. When it kind of gets revealed what is going on, it's like, oh, shit, that's weird. And it's just fun enough. But yeah, it's not anything special. But and I do think pitching it as like this wrestling movie, like there's one part in the entire movie. Two. So the movie starts off, he's like in a wrestling match or whatever, so they're showing him doing that, and then he's fighting off this demon in the kitchen, and he keeps like elbow dropping over and over, and like the head just keeps cratering in. That's the only time though that like any wrestling moves are used, like, because otherwise he's just like punching or kicking or hacking at it with a knife or an axe. Like he's not like doing wrestling moves on it. He just happens to be a wrestler that is in this weird situation as a babysitter.
And he's not a wrestler in real life.
No, I don't think so.
He's just an actor.
If he is, he's like probably some independent dude. I don't know him. Nobody in this film has, like, nobody knows who anybody in this film is. Bloody Disgusting was really pushing it. It's fun enough. Like, if you have Screambox, it's worth it if you have nothing else going on for a night.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out of your way to hunt this one down.
Yeah.
That's it for movies. I did watch some TV stuff. I talked about this a couple months ago. I'd started watching a Netflix anime called Blue Eye Samurai, which had gotten some buzz around it. I finished watching that. That's very good. Not entirely sure I love where it ends. And they've set it up for a season 2. I don't know how that's going to work out, but this first season of it is quite exceptional. I don't really watch a whole lot of anime, but it is more of like a mature storyline that is going on, where this samurai is hunting down all the the white people. There's 4 white people left in Japan, and they have all aligned themselves with kind of the political power here to bring guns and stuff. But the samurai is a product of one of them, and so they are the child of one of these white people that are here, and the way that the country is at the time is basically, if you are not pure blood Japanese, you are ostracized and considered like a mutant or a freak. So this samurai is out to like basically kill the people that created them to get vengeance on them having a shitty life. It's really neat, really well done. Animation is fantastic. There's some really good stuff in the last 2 or 3 episodes. I think it's 8 or 9 episodes long. It, as I said, not sure I like where it completely ends up to set up the season 2 that supposedly is coming, but it's very, very good on television, I think.
Did it get renewed for season 2?
It did,
do you know?
yeah.
Yeah. I know it was a pretty big hit. I remember you talking about it. I thought about giving it a shot. I think I did put it on for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I don't watch anime. I should give it a real shot.
I think if you get into like, and it, like, here's the thing, like, I don't recommend, if a show doesn't click with you in like the first episode, I don't recommend sticking with it, because it might just not be for you and you're just wasting your time. It was a little bit more of a slow burn. I like the content, the kind of the backstory here that they're going for. The cast is really good. Randall Park, George Takei, Masayako, Kenneth Branagh. Like they have a pretty good voice cast going on here, and they all give very good performances. But yeah, if you're not like, you watched it and were like, this isn't my thing, like, that's understandable.
Well, I mean, I don't think I gave it a serious shot, but I just was like, okay, I'm not in the mood for trying to do this tonight or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I put it on for a second. I was just like, I don't know. And I would kind of disagree with you that sometimes I think TV shows do take a couple episodes to get going. Sometimes they don't always.
They do. Like, it's just sometimes like those shows just take like really long to get going, and like you're just like, what am I doing? Like, and if you put the time in, yes, you're going to get something out of it. But there's so much TV out there that,
yeah,
like, if you're like, this isn't clicking for me right away, you can go watch 15 other things that are going to click for you.
True.
I like it. I think I recommend it. I think if you were interested at all in animation, it's very well done.
And you'll be back for season 2.
I will. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. The setting is gonna change from this Edo era Japan to Europe, so I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy that aspect of it. But they did an excellent job here, so maybe they have a really good story going forward. 2 other things real quick.
Sure.
Start watching True Detective season 3 because I never watched it.
Yeah, okay.
and you might talk about True Detective season 4.
I am, yeah.
Night Country, and like that was kind of what got me to do it. I was like, all right, fuck it. I like detective stories. I like the first season of True Detective. I'm gonna watch this third one so I can watch this one that everybody's talking about and is like up in arms on. I know they don't necessarily follow each other, but 3 was pretty hyped. And I liked that first episode. It was pretty good.
Okay, so you've only watched one episode?
Yeah. Marshala Ali, I think, is the main detective here. Yeah. So like, I'm just into it. Like, they found one of the bodies. So like that's where I'm at.
So vaguely remember, like, I will say this. I remember I liked season 3 quite a bit. I remember it's a little slower. and I just remember the ending, and I liked the ending. I thought it was neat. I don't know. Check back with us next month, see what you think. But but yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to say about it, or did you have
I mean,
something else?
it's those. It's a slow burn show, right? So it's like they set up a pretty good mystery. Two kids go missing. I'm kind of hooked on it. Like that at the end is the way that show really works is the end kind of gives you a little reveal. You know, like shit, what happens next? And
Mhm.
the way season 1 and 3 work is like it's kind of told in two perspectives. One directly from you're seeing it as the detectives are doing the case, and then
And then
another
they're
one,
being interviewed.
yeah, like an interview. Two wasn't like that, if I remember correctly. Like two was weird, not
I th-
bad,
I
just different.
I think you're right about two, but I actually forgot that about season three as well. That they did the. I think that's one of the best things about season one of True Detective is like the present day interview versus like you seeing what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I didn't remember that they did that again for season three, so my memory of season two, you can't trust that either.
season 3 is even more interesting because they added on a third time frame. So it's the
Hmm.
case takes place in the 80s. That's when the actual murder crime happens. The interview takes place in the 90s, and then uh, he meets his
Yeah.
wife, and they're having an interview where his memory is fading.
Yes. 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 Yes.
In
Yes.
like the 2000s, 2010s. It's really neat
He's like
because
old. He's like old, right? Like,
yeah, very cool concept to like have three different kind of perspectives. Most of it takes place in the 80s where they're showing the detective
yeah.
work, but neat to have those three. Cool concept, I think. So I will get
Yeah.
back to you. I will finish watching that and then hopefully get to I think season 4 is what 6 episodes, so I don't think
Even
it's
shorter.
going to
Yeah.
be very long. And finally, this just debuted I think last night on FX, the show called Shogun.
Well, like when you were talking about the anime, I was gonna bring up Shogun because I was gonna ask if you're gonna check it out
Yeah,
because it just
so
made me think of it.
I watched the first episode. There's two out. I did not get to watch the second episode yet, but it's really cool. I I think I went in with like weird expectations. People are like, "Oh, this is like the the Game of Thrones we've been waiting for."
I saw something like that today. Like this is the next Game of Thrones.
No, like I don't. It is very much more realistic that like not that Game of Thrones was fantasy. There were dragons and shit, but like a lot of it was political, and maybe that's the what they're going. That's where that comparison came from. Because there's a lot of like political backstabbing, and you know that's where a lot of the action happens is in the back and forth politically, and how they're maneuvering their chess pieces. But this is very much like it takes place in 1600s Japan. There's the side of the Japanese. All of that is done in Japanese, so lots of subtitles in this. And then there is an English merchant, and he speaks English to other people that are European. So you get some English mixed in there, but neat story so far. I don't really want to. Basically, the emperor has died, has left an heir that is like too young, like 8, 9 years old, so
Mm.
can't rule yet. And then there's these five lords that are supposed to be the regents. They're basically the governors of the land out there, and they're supposed to just kind of be peaceful until the kid can come to power and he's old enough to take the throne as the emperor. And there's some backstabbing going on as somebody else tries to consolidate power, and that's where this is going to end up being like somebody's going to call themselves Shogun and be in charge of Japan. And I believe they're pointing to Hiroki Sanada, we've seen him here in movies like Sunshine. He's great Japanese character actor. Seen him in a lot of stuff over the years. But this very cool, very very neat.
I'm kind of upset now that I did not like. We've been me and the wife have been seeing like trailers for it or commercials for it. And we're both like, yeah, we should check that out. And the only reason probably I haven't gotten around to it is because I've been watching The Shield. Just like binging The Shield.
watching another great FX show. So.
Yeah.
It's up on Hulu right now, the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So.
I will get to it. I mean, I can always put The Shield aside. Like literally, we were just watching it just now, and I came in here to do a podcast. I'm like, you could keep watching it if you want. I know what happens. Like,
I will say the first episode absolutely brutal. Like, not like a lot of killing, but there is like somebody gets beheaded out of nowhere. You don't expect it, and then there is a scene that is just gruesome. As somebody gets executed in like the most gross and sadistic way possible that I think you could be executed, and it's pretty foul. I was not expecting that or the nudity because I didn't realize FX could have nudity.
FX can do whatever now, apparently. Yeah.
I am not opposed to it, but I was also like, that was another thing. I was like, and how is this going to be like Game of Thrones? Like there was lots of fucking going on in Game of Thrones. Like, and yeah, there's not a lot, but there's some nudity in the first episode of this, and the language isn't. They're not cursing all the time, but they're not holding back either. So,
just out of curiosity, is it in Japanese or is it in English?
So the Japanese, anytime anybody that's Japanese is talking, it's all in Japanese. So there's subtitles for that, and then the English ship merchant, he speaks English and he can't communicate with them, but there are some Portuguese and Spanish that have come over prior to that, and they brought Christianity with them, and so that's like a kind of like a minor plot line, but they have learned Japanese, so they're dual language, so they're able to talk with the English sailor and translate for the Japanese back and forth. So you get conversations with him are in English, and then conversations between the Japanese are in Japanese.
I'm kind of surprised they actually went with people speaking the actual languages for a TV show. But it doesn't really bother me one way or another. I just find that surprising. I was curious.
Like especially for something that's being pushed out there on like regular TV, like as a movie, sure, but a 10-episode TV show, like it'll be interesting to see how it does, because there's a lot of people that just they're not willing to give a show that has subtitles a chance. So certainly not 10 episodes worth. But first episode, I loved it.
It makes it a harder sell for the wife because she can't play the game on her phone or whatever while watching. But
I caught myself doing that. I was like, I'd look down at my phone and like the Japanese characters were talking, and I'm like, it's like, shit, I have no idea. I had to like rewind because I have no idea what you said.
Pay attention. Yeah. Cool.
All right.
But yeah, you really like it.
Yeah. So far, I'm gonna watch the second episode probably tomorrow or over the weekend, and then once a week from there on out for the next 8 weeks. So, what have you been watching, Jeff?
Not too much, really. I don't know. Really not much. Like I did see one recent movie that I thought was up for some awards, and it is, but just doesn't have any Oscar nominations, I don't think. And that's called All of Us Strangers. Have you heard of it?
No.
It stars the hot priest from Fleabag. I can't think of the actor's name at this moment. He's a good actor. He is a gay writer who lives by himself in like a huge high-rise apartment building, and he's working on a book about his parents who he lost at a very young age when they died in a car accident. And the premise of the movie is like one day he's, I guess, maybe looking for inspiration or whatever, takes a train over to like his childhood home where he grew up, and his parents are in there like at the age that they were when he died. So like they're still like in their 30s or whatever. And he's able to like talk with them and visit them and go see them whenever he wants. Even though like they're basically like ghosts.
Yeah.
Neat. Premise for a movie. In many ways, kind of the same premise as Back to the Future, but this is like a this isn't like a fun zany time travel thing, and it's not like horror or anything like that. It's just like kind of a sad, strange, just like what if movie. Like what if you could like talk to people that you lost 30 years ago. What would that be like catching up with them? I thought it was a pretty good little movie, and goes some places that kind of surprised me near the end. But I don't really want to say more than that. I don't want to spoil the movie for people that might be interested. But yeah, I liked it, and it's on Hulu now. Okay. I want to say, so you can check it out for free if you're interested. Again, I thought it was up for some Oscars, but not that's here nor there. But I thought for sure like he was nominated, and maybe like actually thought it was the Best Picture nom, but I was wrong. But it's good. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is a TV show called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which yeah. I don't know. Did you ever see the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith? With,
Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie split up. Brad Pitt and what's her name? The girl from Friends.
I didn't even remember that. Yeah, but I know I've seen it. I remember liking it, but I remember the premise of that movie is like they were a married couple, but like they did not know
each other.
Like each other were
yes.
Yeah, and
for
this new
differing agencies, I believe.
Like for different agencies.
Yeah, they were different, or they were both assassins for different agencies or something.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't seen it since it came out. It came out almost 20 years ago now.
Yep.
But I remember liking it. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
do you remember? Yeah. But this is like this new show. It stars Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. It's like an inversion of that premise. It's it starts off. You see these two people being interviewed for a job with this agency to like basically be a spy, and they get the job, and then they are paired up together as like a fake couple. Like they're really just partners, like spies. Like they like work together. Like they work together to complete contracts, right? Like to go on missions to kill people. Or
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so they can rely on each other or whatever. But like, it's kind of like if Poker Face had a better overarching like narrative. Like that show Poker Face that were like
I liked it a lot. It was like Mystery of the Week though. Like
that's kind of like, this is not like Mystery of the Week. It's like, what is our adventure of the week? Like what is our job? Like basically they get a new job every week. Like this, you have to kill this person or do this or do that. Like overhear this conversation, intercept this package. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a different mission every week. And it gives the show like an opportunity to bring in these like cool guest stars for each different episode. But there's at the same time, it's these two people getting to know each other, and so it's kind of like like a romance like happening at the same time. So like, and that's like the story that runs through it. Although like that quickly becomes, if anything, the show like moves through time too fast because like before you know it, like you're a few episodes in and like they've been a couple for a while now. Now they're like a bickering couple trying to do missions together. But I found the show like very entertaining. It's one that I would like recommend to anybody. Like it's such a safe recommend. Like I'd just be like, yeah, you see Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you'll like it because like it's just entertaining. It's like broad. It has like broad appeal. And I thought, I think it was, I can't remember if it was 8 or 10 episodes.
Eight episodes.
8 episodes. It wraps up in an interesting way where it's like you could continue the series or you could not. Like there's 2 different ways to read the ending. But if it got renewed, I would definitely be back for more. I think it's a very fun show. It's one that like for you, for instance, like I still really want to get you to watch For All Mankind. Like that's the show I'm going to push on you forever.
Yeah.
But this is one that like I just know like you would like have a blast watching it. You know what I mean?
And it's shorter.
It is it's definitely shorter. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. So it's a like strong recommend from me on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think that's on Amazon.
Yep.
On
Okay.
Prime. I guess we should talk about True Detective Night Country.
Yeah.
There's some interesting discourse around that show. I am the worst judge of True Detective because I like all of them. Like, I liked season 1. I still think season 1 is the best. I liked season 3. I even liked season 2, even though everyone like thought that was terrible. I still like found a lot to enjoy in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this season, Night Country, it's a new showrunner. It's Issa Lopez who did that movie Tigers Are Not Afraid that I really loved.
Yep.
Horror movie from a few years back. Now she's been given the reins of the show, and I guess they renewed it for another season with her running it. And as let's just say, like the reaction to it has been pretty intense all around. The showrunner, Nick Pizzolatto, who created the show and wrote the first 3 seasons entirely, I want to say.
Yeah, there was his, like, it was his show. He did everything on it.
It's very rare though that like a creator writes every episode, and he did. And again, I liked everything that he did with it. And now you have someone else running it, and he was not happy about it, to say the least. And there was a lot of people. It was really weird because the show got like really great reviews, and then people got to actually watch it. Besides, who weren't like critics, got to see the whole season.
Yeah,
it got great reviews, and then like as it's coming out, there was pretty vocal. I don't know, minority or majority, but a lot of people like thought it was fucking dog shit, and I was kind of in that camp for a long time because I thought this thing was pretty like. It has a really strong setting. It's kind of that setting, like from 30 Days of Night, where they're like up in Alaska, and it starts like the night season where it's like going to be 30 days of fucking night, and they're trying to solve this crazy fucking. You don't even know if it's a murder or what it is at first. It's like these bunch of scientists get found like frozen together. They're like a corpsicle. And they're just like, how the fuck did this happen?
It's the cool image that I guess they've been pushing out there, which is it's an awesomely gruesome image to have out there.
It feels more like in the horror genre than True Detective has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels more supernatural. Like, what I loved about True Detective like season 1 is like there were hints that there was something way bigger and cosmic and some sort of horror going on. But at the end of the day, it was like, no, this is like the real world, and it's just like a killer. This is like just from the get go is like way more like, how the fuck, this has to be supernatural, right? And like, that stuff kind of rubbed me wrong. But it also had it has like a really like the setting. I love that setting. It has Jodie Foster going for it. Her like partner, Callie Reese, I think her name is. She's like a professional boxer before this.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty good on it. There's like there's a lot to really love about the show, but it is really, really boring in my opinion for like the first 3 episodes. To the point where like after episode 3, I didn't even bother to watch the new episode when it came out. I let like the next couple weeks go, and then as the finale was coming up, I'm like, I better catch up. I watched, the last 2, and then I watched the finale as it aired, and I ended up like really liking it and like liking where it went, and like at the end of the day, I was satisfied. Are there like a million things that it forgets to like things that they brought up as important and do not explain, like how the fuck, like, okay, what happened to that? I thought that was like supposed to be something, right? Like, it's not perfect. It has flaws, but just for me personally, I ended up being really like at the end of the day, I liked it, as I end up liking every season of the show. But yeah, it's just an uncomfortable position to be in. At least it was for me during the first half of the season, as someone that didn't like it, being grouped in with the people who don't like it because, like, oh, this is woke, and there's women detectives. This is fucking bullshit now, or it has a message. You know what I mean? Like, I hate it when I don't like something, but then there's like this horribly toxic group of people that I have to be grouped in with
like,
because of that.
I want to like it because I don't want to be with these people.
Exactly, but it's like some of them have a point. Like, a lot of people like that didn't like it. It wasn't because of that. Like there were critics that did not like it, and it had nothing to do with that. It was very funny. Someone I follow on Twitter, they tweeted, "Just finished True Detective Night Country. Can we set up some kind of Warren Commission to explain those reviews?" And he sent that out and probably went to bed or whatever. And he got retweeted by Ben Shapiro, and he's like, "Oh no!"
Well, yeah,
so yeah, it kind of sucks the conversation around it.
Those people like believe that if you don't like it, it's because of the exact same reasons they don't like it, and it's like, no man, I have no problem with Women Detective. It's just badly written, like.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people thought. It was badly written, like, and I can't say like I want to like defend the show. I want to say why I liked it, but it's way too spoilery. So like we'll have that discussion after you see it. Like, okay. There's a reason why I dug it in the end, but yeah, I can't say any more than I've already said. It's a cool setting, cool cast. It's a shorter season. It has flaws. I'm sure you might find flaws in it too, but I think you'll probably end up digging it too. Like, I don't know. I really don't know, because like people are so split on that new season.
Basically, if you give me a good enough mystery and like it can pull me along, I'm probably in. Like, man,
I'm interested to see what you'll say about it.
I watched some like nonsense procedurals, so like I'm probably fine with it. It has a cool setting. The murder seems interesting. We'll see. I mean, I may be bored out of my mind like you were in the first 3 episodes. And
to me, the murder was not interesting at first, because I was just like, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And then we were trying to do all these like ties, and it does do it throughout the entire season, like ties to season 1. She was either a big fan of season 1, I think she was, but I also, it's kind of like giving fan service, and the fans hated it. Yeah.
Yeah, that I heard a lot of that. Like I don't know what the ties are, but I did hear.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil. Yeah.
Oh, there's all these ties to season 1, and it's like, but if they're not like natural feeling, then they'd probably just feel forced, and it just lends credence to the crazy people.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think like Nick Pizzolatto, he has every right to be fucking pissed off that his show got taken from him, and they're doing something that he thinks is garbage. And I think he genuinely thinks it's like, part of it is I'm sure he's bitter, but I think he genuinely does not like what they did with it, you know, and that's fine. And like, people are like the take sides. Twitter always turns everything into this like taking sides shit, and it's like, dude, y'all think it's funny when John Carpenter or fucking Paul Schrader like fucking trashes somebody, but as soon as he does it because it's a woman creator, it's like, I don't know, dude, maybe he just genuinely thinks it sucks. Is that okay? Like,
and,
like it's okay when everyone else does it, but you know,
it's okay,
and he already has a reputation as an asshole.
Yeah, it's also okay for a creator to be bitter that like somebody is
something that you made.
Yeah, like he individually created it. It was his thing, and that like because of the way he signed it, and like this is a bigger issue for creators, you know, in the industry anyway. And when you sign on with these studios, they own your shit, right? Like it's theirs. Then they can do whatever they want. Yeah. Like if they want to make a Back to the Future 4. They can do that. Like they don't have to talk to Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis. They can just do it, and it can be shit. And that may leave some people bitter that created the original. And like I could see where he'd be like, "This is not what I wanted. You could have called me back, guys. Like I would have done something for you."
Yeah, I'm sure he's upset about it. I think, you know, the classy move is to not say anything, but
absolutely,
as someone that just like watches shit like this happen, like I think it's funny when directors or creators get mad about something, because like I don't know, like again, when John Carpenter does it, everyone thinks it's fucking hilarious, but when Nick Pizzolatto does it, it's like, oh, he's part of an incel brigade, and I'm like, I don't think that's what it is, but that's the problem. You get like, all of a sudden you're like co-opted into this movement of people.
Ben Shapiro's retweeting you, so
yeah, exactly. But anyways, again, at the end of the day, I liked all the True Detectives. I liked this one as well. I actually am really curious what you thought of what you're going to think of season 3. I dug it. I kind of want to watch it again now that you're watching it. I'm like, I want to refresh my memory, because I don't remember anything about it except I remember like you kind of refresh my memory about the 3 timelines, and then I remember like one thing about how it ends, and I wonder how you'll take the ending. But
yeah.
Anyways, that's all I've been watching.
I'm gonna poke through those. So yeah, cool. I guess we should get to our feature films then.
Yeah, we got 2 like I've say somewhat challenging ones to tackle.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, more than
normal.
More challenging than the stuff we usually. Let's start off. Let's go in chronological order here. We're going to start off with A Face in the Crowd. This was written by Bud Schulberg, directed by Elia Kazan, and released May 28th. 1957.
Oh, lonesome roads.
Look out for him. He's mean. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Andy Griffith, another sensational newcomer from Elia Kazan, who brought you Marlon Brando and James Dean and Carol Baker. Be on. Freeman morning. Freeman in the morning. Freeman in the morning. Loved by millions. An idol of the people. Bye. Bye, Lucy. So long, Luther. You write to me now. I'll be thinking of you, good people.
Boy, I'm glad to shake that dump.
Don't try to play the noble defender of the sanctity of marriage with me, Papa Man. I know where you've been some of those nights when Betty was waiting up for you. You know, you hit me and it'll be all over the papers as much as the people love you tonight.
You're
they can
fired.
Hit you.
I'm not just an entertainer. I'm an influence, a wielder of opinion, a force. A force.
Oh, if they ever heard the way that psycho really talks.
They're mine. I own them. They think like I do. But they're even more stupid than I am. So I gotta think for them.
One of the greatest characterizations ever put on the screen in the whole history of motion pictures.
Maybe I'm just a country boy. But if the president tries to stop me, I'll flood the White House with millions of telegrams.
It is actually the first, it's like the debut role of Andy Griffith, which is interesting because you would say he's playing against the type here, but he didn't have a type yet. So it was weird that like he did this role, and people were like, you know what we should do is make a wholesome show about it. The movie, I was able to find out its box office, which was or no, I'm sorry, not its box office. I was able to find that its budget, which was 1.6 million, which was pretty big for 1957. Box office, I don't have the numbers other than it was a failure when it was released. It was not like a big movie. It was ignored by the Academy when it came out. It's gone on to become a classic. Although not like one that is immediately known, because like, yeah, it's just not was widely known as maybe like the other movie we're going to talk about. Which the other movie we're going to talk about, if you've never seen Network, you still know that line. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore, or whatever. So,
yeah.
Anyways, and like help me along here because I watched this like 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I was like kind of excited to see both these movies, so I didn't wait till the last minute like I normally would, so they'd be like super fresh in my head.
Yeah, I just saw them. So.
But Patricia Neal plays Marcia Jeffries, and she's like this radio reporter who does a show called A Face in the Crowd, and it's, you know, the idea is like talking to normal people and telling their stories. It's kind of like This American Life or something like that.
Yeah, and
she goes to like a drunk tank and just
it does seem like a wild location. It seems crazy that you would go to the jail to like do that.
Yeah, hey, if you're looking for an interesting story, you might find one there, you know. And you know, there's a bunch of people that are sleeping off hangovers, including our main character, Lonesome Rhodes, played by Andy Griffith. Although his name is not Lonesome Rhodes, I don't remember what they said. They do say his real name. Do you
Larry.
know?
It's Larry.
Larry.
Yeah. Which I don't think he calls himself Larry. Like when she, Marcia, puts the microphone in his face, she's like going around trying to get everyone to talk, and she's like, and what's your name? And he's like, you know, call me whatever. Like,
call me whatever you want.
Yeah, he's like, I'm Rhodes, and like call me. And it's like, well, you have a first name, and call me whatever you want. And that's where he gets the name Lonesome. Like, she just comes up with it off the top of her head.
I think that's an important thing though, because she gives him the name Lonesome Rhodes, and he is an invention of the media. You know, she made him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It backfires on her.
At every stage of his career, she's the one building him up. Like, he is just a fabrication that she's the backbone behind it. She's the creator.
And when you think of the parallels to today, like, you could look at it. I mean, I don't have to beat around the bush here. Like, you know, there's a parallel with Trump here, right?
Yeah. Parallel with the one I took was Tucker Carlson.
Really?
Like, I mean, not that he is like, I mean, neither him nor Trump are nobodies. Like, they didn't come from nothing. But like the rise and fall here of like Tucker basically, like where this ends up is that he loses all, like Lonesome Rhodes loses his power. Not completely. Like, he'll be on TV at some point after that, but like Tucker's gone from his big, like, from Fox News. He's gone from there. Now he's doing fucking interviews on Twitter and from his basement. Like,
yeah, and that's happened with a lot of figures,
Yeah.
you know, like Bill O'Reilly,
Yeah.
whatever. But you know who I thought of maybe even more than, well, I think I thought of Trump through a lot of this, because you just, there's things that are said throughout the movie that you're just like, oh my god, this is like so spot on. But I also kind of thought of Sarah Palin, you know, this kind of like country bumpkin, because like Trump is not a country bumpkin type personality. He's good at playing to that crowd, but he's like this rich New York businessman, right? Like, it
Palin's
doesn't, like, the metaphor doesn't 100% work. Yeah.
Because
But anyways,
Palin is that country person, though. It's like, oh, like, they came from nothing. They came from the middle of Alaska or Arkansas, and yeah,
and all of a sudden you're a vice presidential candidate. And I guess we gotten a little ahead of ourselves, but like, you kind of get the sense of where it's going. This guy in a drunk tank, they wake him up, and he ends up being the most interesting one that she talks to there because he could sing. He does a little song for them called like "Free Man in the Morning." I think that's what it's called.
something like that.
Freedom in the Morning, something like that. It's actually a pretty good song, I think. And I think Andy Griffith is like one really good in this role, but also a pretty good singer. Pretty good. If that's him singing and performing, he's pretty good. But anyways, this guy, this Lonesome Rhodes guy, he's got a certain talent. He's got like a certain charisma, and instantly becomes like a big star. You know, they show like people like listening to him talking on the radio, because they give him like a radio show after this. But people want more. You know, Lonesome Rhodes.
Yeah, so he starts out as a radio DJ.
Yeah, he gets on the radio, but he'll be feeling like talking to the wives out there. They don't know what it's like. You know, the husbands don't know what it's like to be cleaning the inside of the stove or whatever the fuck this homespun fucking nonsense is. And they show like a lady, she's like cleaning her stove. Listen to him, she's like, yeah, you know, like he instantly becomes like a huge star. The people love him, and he immediately uses that power to attack his enemies. Like, I think it's like very early on in the movie, he like, as soon as he becomes famous, he like goes after this mayoral candidate, right?
Yeah, it's the sheriff.
Or the sheriff. Oh, is the sheriff running for re-election? Is that what it is?
Sheriff's running for mayor. He's going to be the next mayor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and he's like, you know, I don't think this guy could even be a dog catcher. You guys bring your dogs over to him. You know, like, he immediately like starts using his power like that to attack his enemies. Again, like, that's another thing. I'm like, the Trump does the same thing. He uses the media to fucking get people riled up and go after his enemies. I think it was when he does this that he's in the car with Marsha, and he's like watching all these people bring their dogs to this guy's house, and I think she like notes, like, she's like, you really have like sway with people, like they'll do anything you say. And he has this big booming laugh that I kind of love. He does that. He says, yeah, I guess I can. And then he like,
it becomes an evil laugh.
Then like, it's like a pretty chilling moment, because then it hits him. He's like, I guess I can. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh shit.
I have real power.
Yeah, like he realizes, like he's a guy that knows he's charming and stuff, but he's like, oh, I could use that to like influence the masses. And I think he even says at one point that he's an influencer, which is like,
Yes.
that'll send a chill down your spine.
Fucking 60 years early.
Yeah. But yeah, like another instance of something that he does is he sends a bunch of kids to his old boss's pool. He's like, oh, Mr. So-and-so, you know, he'd love to have all the neighborhood kids come play in his pool, you know, like, but behind the scenes, he is not like, you know, he projects a persona, but behind the scenes, he's I think
ass.
you called him a narcissist.
Very much so, yeah.
I mean, outwardly on the surface, he is a demagogue, and it kind of shows how, you know, the media, you know, television can like really give rise to a demagogue and what that could do. But behind the scenes, he's even worse because like as a person, he's like awful, like really.
I mean, you get a glimpse of it.
Really awful.
You get a glimpse of it with the dog catcher piece, but then as they're leaving to go to Memphis, which is like the next big step in his career, he's leaving the radio station, he's going to go do TV now, and he's getting on the train, and he's not even like away from the people, he's just stepped one on the train. He's like, can't wait to get away from this like shithole or something. He doesn't say shithole, but it's like something to that degree. And like Marsha's like, yo, like these people love you, what are you doing?
And then he recognizes that like she's not with him on that, and he kind of you know, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, but he goes bigger and bigger. Like, yeah, you said he goes where to get like his big TV show?
They go to Memphis, Tennessee, where he's like he's on like their local TV station there.
Yeah, and then that's when he starts having like, you know, they have like their TV back then would have like one big sponsor that would, you know, sponsor a program. And the other thing that reminded me of Trump is like he's horrible when he has to be on script.
Yes.
He can't do the ad reads. He kind of just has to ad lib and do his own thing. And he does that. He does a show like kind of mocking this mattress company that is advertising. And he even jokes, he's like, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to be a free man in the morning, but ultimately, and this is something that kind of like happens in network as well, is like, you think he's fucked, and like the advertisers are going to pull everything, but it's like, the ratings are up, and the advertiser gets like a 55% boost in sales on their mattresses, so it's like, whatever this guy wants to do, who gives a shit? He starts to... He gets a new sponsor. There's like so many things in this movie that like I think are like way ahead of its time. The Vitajex, which is basically like a Viagra. I think it's basically like a bullshit vitamin.
Yes,
it's basically what it is. It's some sort of like vitamin. But
he sells it like it's fucking.
He sells it like it's Viagra. Yeah. And he does like this. I remember when he did like the pitch for this. He like comes into the room. He's like, "This is what you're new. It's gonna give you. It gives you puffier stuff or whatever. You know, basically it gives you rouse." And he starts like chasing this girl around the office to do his pitch. Like it's so insane. But there is a relationship that develops between him and Marsha, the actual journalist that made him, and. This is where I think he reveals like his worst traits. I don't know about you, like for all like the crazy stuff he does, you know, to the masses, it's like behind the scenes what he does to this lady is just like unreal, man. Like
she falls in love with him, and like he at every turn fucks her over.
He's a classic like womanizer, and which is like probably typical of the time, but. Boy, does he do like? Well, first he has like a wife that comes out of nowhere. So he was already married, and she wants money. I think she asked for like $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
To like just stay like. And she says this to Marsha. Yeah, she says this to Marsha, right? Like,
yep.
She like shows up at Marsha's apartment, like, "Hey, I'm his actual wife. I don't really care. You could have him, but." I just tell him I want $3,000 a month to stay quiet about it. and or else I'll say something about it, and I won't get a divorce. Yeah, which this is already bad enough. But then he like convinces Marsha that, oh no, I'm going to divorce her. In fact, I'm going to go down to like Mexico to get this divorce. It's like easier to get done or whatever. And then meanwhile, he goes to like some baton twirling competition or whatever.
He goes back to the town where he was the radio host, so back home basically to Arkansas, and yeah, he goes to like he is special judge of like the Little Miss Arkansas baton twirling championship.
It's like looking at this like little blonde 17-year-old girl, like she's like clearly admires him or whatever, and he's just looking at her like he's just a shark. He's like, but it kind of like blindsides even like the audience, like us, the viewers of the film, because Marsha goes to like meet him on the tarmac somewhere. He's like getting off this plane. And he supposedly had just gone to Mexico to get divorced from his first wife, and then, so he and Marsha could be together. And he gets off with his new wife, which is the 17-year-old girl that he saw at the baton twirling competition. And if you weren't already against this guy at this point, I think you are now.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I was just like, I was against him from the beginning because I saw all the parallels to someone like Trump or Palin, But then it's just like, once he does that, you're like, dude, oh my god, this poor fucking woman. And I forgot where I wanted to go. Oh yeah, so then there is the suggestion that he would start to have like real influence in politics in this. And basically that is, he's like helping this like stuffy old senator with his presidential run. And he's kind of like giving him tips about how to appear in the media. Like, how to present himself, right?
Yeah, that's such a fascinating, that whole interaction is great. Because one, he comes in, just like stops, he threatens to walk out. And he brings this like other country bumpkin buddy in with him that is... He calls him to his face an idiot.
Yeah, it's like he's basically his employee, right?
Yeah, he's like, my buddy here. He's a moron.
Yeah,
and if you can't
keep him around,
if you can't get him to vote for you, like, how are you going to get anybody else to vote for you? You need people like him. They're the ones voting. You need to get the idiots. And so it's like he has such a firm grasp on how to manipulate people and get them to eat out of his hand. That like it was just fascinating.
And there is kind of the suggestion that like the politics that the politicians that he was supporting were like right wing, I forgot what it was. Like they're trying to like sell people on being against Social Security. I think. Yeah. So yeah, this movie was like nailing everything. Yeah, there's a part where I think he's in bed, I want to say. I forgot who he was talking to, but he gives this whole speech about how like this whole country is my flock of sheep. Like, they're mine. I own them. They think like I do, only they're more stupid than I am. So I gotta think for them.
Oh, I think that this might be after. This might be after he finds out his wife's cheating on him. The 17-year-old.
Yeah, with his like agent, right?
Yeah, and so he ends up going back to Marsha. He runs back to her, and that is such a chilling scene too, because he bangs on her door, demands she opens up, and then like he just walks in like, all right, I'm back with you now.
Yeah, like it didn't work out, so I'm back.
Go get me a drink. Is like he even says that in there. Like, go get me a drink, and like and this whole time he's just talking about like how he has all this power and all this influence and how he's the one that's actually in charge of everything. Nightmarish, actually.
Yeah. No, she fucking is not having it. I think she runs out on him, right?
Yeah,
like Marsha does.
Yep.
Yeah, and it builds to an ending here where he's doing a show. He's doing his TV show, and after it ends, he's like talking shit about how stupid, the audience is basically, and Marsha's there in the room, and she like flips the switch so that he's back on the air. And so all his fans could see the real Lonesome Rhodes, like what he really is, and it kind of destroys him.
And this is what's, I mean, this is what should destroy him, right? This is exactly how it should go. Except for somebody like Trump, we've heard him talk about normal people. We've heard him, like
he said it to their face, like
Yeah.
he said it right to them. I love stupid people, like,
and they just don't get it.
well, that's where I think the movie is like almost not cynical enough, because it's impossible to break people out of the cult mentality. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he says. It's right no matter what. If he's making fun of you, it's right. That's like, that's where I'm like, the movie is maybe slightly less cynical
Than the actual world.
Yeah, then like it assumed in reality, if someone like this was exposed, that people would be like, "Oh, holy shit! Like I've been fooled. Like this guy is not who he presents himself as." But it's like not the way, at least in the case of like cults or Donald Trump, that's not the way it seems to work.
Right.
Although there is like, this is a fairly cynical film, because like Walter Matthau at the end, who's like this guy who's been pining after Marsha the whole time, kind of fucking like the movie ends with him kind of telling Lonesome Rhodes off in a scene where like they go to Lonesome Rhodes like mansion, and he's in there like acting like he's supposed to give this big speech, but everyone left him. He's fucked over at this point. So he has his assistant, the guy that you were just talking about, like playing his soundboard, and people applauding and cheering him on as he's like giving the speech to nobody. But Walter Matthau like basically tells him like, you'll still have a career. He's like, you just won't ever be as big as you were, like you were just saying about like Tucker Carlson. He's like, you'll be fine. And then like Walter Matthau and Marsha like drive off in a taxi, and they hear him screaming her name or whatever. I think Walter Matthau says, "Don't worry, I don't think he's the suicidal type." And that's it. That's the end of the movie. It ends with them riding off. Yeah, it's. I guess I'll let you give your thoughts first on this movie.
One, I was actually very, very happily surprised that like it's super engaging, it's super entertaining. And I think that does come down to Andy Griffith, Patricia Neal, Walter Matthau, all giving great performances. Their characters are excellent, and the way they're portrayed, especially Rhodes and Marsha. They're just super engaging. They're fun to be around, but also like Rhodes is nightmarish. But yeah, I came out, I was like, this is really neat. Like it's a movie that is 65 years old, 66 years old at this point. Like, and for it to be engaging in that way and still kind of like resonate through to today, it's very impressive.
Yeah. Agreed. I kind of what you just said, like, I don't mind an older movie, but this is an older movie. This is from the 50s, and it moves it's instantly engaging, and it moves, and it feels more adult and risque than a lot of movies from the 50s would.
Yeah,
like the subject matter is pretty risky, like risque for you know what I mean, like
there's nothing like untoward that like you would not expect from a 1950s movie, but like there are points where like Rhodes is pretty like, yeah, he's a fucking man whore, like, and I think that the first time Marsha goes to get him at his hotel, like he's like, "Whoa, do you, like, you never sat on a hotel bed with a man before? Just like patting down, like come over here and fuck me." Like
it's not like they're not showing nudity, and she's not talking about her pussy or something. But it is
It's adult.
Yes, it's adult and modern in a way that I was kind of surprised by for a movie from 1957.
Yeah.
And again, I was like totally like you engaged in the story, and every scene felt purposeful. Like it felt like every scene was like, this is to show this, this is to show this. And in nearly every one, I could draw some sort of parallel to today. And I'm just like, geez, man, none of this stuff is new. Like, this shit, I guess, has been around forever. But it's like interesting to see that even then they like realized how TV can amplify this stuff.
It's sad that 65 years later we still have not learned that lesson.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed this movie. I don't know about you. What's your score?
I did too. I'm going in 8 out of 10 here.
I'm going in 8.5. This is like, it's a classic, and yet at the same time, I feel like not enough people know about it. So if you've not seen A Face in the Crowd, check it out.
Yep.
Our next film, you've probably heard of. I think most people have heard of Network from 1976, but I don't know. I had not seen it prior to this, and you had not, right? So,
No.
Maybe a little bit underseen by today, even though everyone is like familiar with it, like they know what it is. It came out November 27th, 1976.
And now, the distinguished television news commentator, Mr. Howard Beale.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like at this moment to announce that I will be retiring from this program in 2 weeks' time because of poor ratings. Since this show was the only thing I had going for me in my life, I have decided to kill myself. I'm going to blow my brains out right on this program a week from today.
What the hell's going on?
Prepare yourself for a perfectly outrageous motion picture.
Howard Beale went up there last night and said what every American feels, that he's tired of all the bull.
Sakes, Diana, we're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television.
I am not putting Howard back on the air.
It's not your show anymore, Max. It's mine.
I got a feeling I'm being made.
You are.
Got to warn you, I don't do anything on my first date.
We'll see. I want a show developed based on the activities of a terrorist group.
Well, Ahmed, I'm gonna make a TV star out of you. Just like Archie Bunker.
That's the #1 show in television!
We're number one! There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and DuPont and Exxon. And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone. Am I getting through to you, Mr. Beale?
Why me?
It was your own television, dummy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Network News Hour with Howard Beale.
I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go out?
You've got to get mad.
67.
You've got to say... I want you to get up right now. Go to your windows, stick your head out, and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Herb?
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Ted?
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
Network by Patty Chayefsky, directed by Sidney Lumet, produced by Howard Gottfried. Television will never be the same.
Is written by Patty Chayefsky and directed by Sidney Lumet. had a budget of 3.8 million, box office of 23.7 million. It was instantly recognized, unlike A Face in the Crowd, which came out and it, I guess, kind of fell flat at first, or was a flop at first. This was like a big deal, and it did go on to win some Oscars. In fact, I was reading the Wikipedia earlier today, and I guess 3 out of the 4 leads won an Oscar. Like, basically, it took 3 out of the 4 acting categories.
Oh, wow.
Which has not been done since until last year for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that's pretty interesting. And this is a wild movie, I think. More so than A Face in the Crowd. Like, it starts off normal enough, sort of, even though it's like outrageous. But it gets like, I hate to draw this comparison because like this movie's kind of zany to begin with. But Sorry to Bother You, it kind of starts off with one premise and then like it really goes crazy places. I feel like this one also really goes like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but when like Ned Beatty shows up, I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Anyways, this tells the story of this anchor who's been around and his ratings are down. Howard Beale, right?
Yes.
Played by
Peter Finch.
Peter Finch, who sadly, I guess, died before this movie even won its awards, which is crazy. So he must have died right after making this. But he's a longtime anchor, and we're told this in like voiceover narration that I don't know they ever explain who the hell is telling us this. Usually, like when you have like,
I took it as what was his name? His buddy, the news head,
Max, I think his name.
Yeah, I thought that's who it was, but I could be wrong on that.
I need to pull up the full cast for this because I don't want to like forget any of the characters' names or the actors who played them because they're a lot of what I really, really, really loved about this movie. Yeah, his buddy Max, his longtime kind of coworker, right? Who's played by William Holden.
He's in charge of the news.
He's like in charge of the news division, and they're really close. They go out and get drunk together. I think one of the first scenes in the movie is them getting drunk. But we are explained at the beginning, I guess by Max, maybe you're right, by Max, that, ratings are down on this guy. He's been around forever, and he's got 2 weeks left on the air. He's getting canceled. He's getting replaced. And they all go out and get, drinking together, and Howard Beale tells his buddy Max that he's like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to blow my brains out. Like, this is it for me. And then he goes and says it on the air. He said he's getting, he says he's getting fired in 2 weeks because of the ratings. And he's like, you know what? Next Tuesday, I'm going to blow my brains out on the air. The network does not respond well to this. They immediately fire him. And he somehow convinces them that that he should be able to go on, smooth it over or make it right? Like, he's just like, let me go back on. Let me say goodbye to my audience. And let me pass the torch to the new guy.
Yeah.
Say, okay, no booze. Don't get drunk. And he goes on and goes off script again and starts saying that's the other fun thing about this movie is it's not just the one speech he gives about I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore. Pretty much anytime he gets on there, it's pretty entertaining. He just starts saying how the whole world is bullshit, God is bullshit, stuff you would not say on TV, especially back then. Meanwhile, we have Faye Dunaway as this young, like, kind of ruthless reporter. Well, she's not a reporter, right? She's like in charge of like their entertainment.
Yeah, she's
division.
she's on the other. She's not on the news section, but she's basically head of programming for the network.
The scripted. She does like scripted stuff. But you could tell she's just ruthless. All she cares about is ratings, and she sees, like, she understands how the world works maybe more than Howard Beale and Max. Yeah, and like she's like trying to do a series. Like, she has footage of a bank robbery, like, that was filmed by the people that were robbing the place, and she wants to turn that into a TV show, like a series that like has some crazy footage shot by criminals every week. And then we interview them, or I don't know what. I really like. I'm like, what is she going for here with? And like, at some point, she does, like, they do have to go into logistics of like, how are you, like, you're basically employing terrorists? Like, what are you talking about? Like, then you have Robert Duvall as kind of the guy running the network, right? Like, he's like right below Jensen.
Right. Yeah, he's below the guy that is, like, I guess who is actually the president of the network, but he's like the up and comer trying to move into that spot.
But he's the one that makes the shit, like, back in the day, like, and they say this in the movie, like, news divisions of networks were run at a loss of profit because it was viewed as doing something for the greater good.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the news was important, so it doesn't matter if it's profitable. Like, we make our profits elsewhere, it's fine. He's like, no, we gotta squeeze the juice out of everything here. We somehow gotta, like, make news profitable. Well, lucky him, because this fired anchor, his, like, crazy rants about how he's gonna kill himself and the world is bullshit, is hugely popular, and the ratings go up. And they bring him back. They actually tried to fire his buddy Max too, because he let him do the God is bullshit, speech. This dude's like front page news everywhere, and like, we got a star out of him. And I think Faye Dunaway realizes that we have to build a show just around Howard Beale.
Yes.
I think Robert Duvall says we're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television, which was a line that again, is one that made me think about what the news networks did in modern times today.
Oh, absolutely. I feel, and we'll probably get to this as we wrap this up, but I feel that this film is like, Warner and Fox and all of them, Paramount, they all took all the wrong lessons from this film and were like, we can make money off of the news. We're going to do it all the time. We're going to make news a personality-driven thing. It doesn't really matter if it's news or not, as long as we're bringing advertising dollars.
This was the birth of news as entertainment.
Yeah.
And it is wild where it goes with this, because, like, it starts off with, like, him doing news, like, basically him doing the news with his little editorial where he gets to rant. And it quickly starts to, like, resemble, like, televangelists, where, like, all of a sudden now he's got a live studio audience who is, like, cheering him on at everything he says. And he's not sitting behind the desk. He's standing there and sermonizing to them.
Yeah, they even have, like, this, it's almost like a stained glass type thing behind him. Like, I think he calls himself the Mad Prophet or something to that effect.
Yeah. And they kind of add this whole circus around him, too. There's, like, a soothsayer. Like, it's, again, starts to resemble a circus. Meanwhile, I didn't want to, like, pass up, because that's kind of like the main plot here is that. But there's, like, I think I actually found his friend Max's story kind of interesting, and I feel like him and Faye Dunaway got some of the best scenes in the movie because they start having an affair together. He's a much older man than the young Faye Dunaway here, and he starts cheating on his wife.
So I looked into that because like they've always like, I mean, Hollywood's always done this, right? But they try to paint fucking William Holden out to be like, in fact, Diana, the Faye Dunaway's character, calls him like a middle-aged man. I'm like, he doesn't look middle-aged. Like he looks
like
old.
40. He looks like 40 years older than her,
like,
easily. You know, she's like a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah, I think she was actually like 35, and I think he was 66 or something like that. So like, fucking nutso and gross, absolutely gross.
It is also. It was funny to me too because like William Holden and Max, like he's like the guy who's like the moral center of this movie.
Yeah.
But he's also a guy who like cheats on his wife, and like, but it's just funny. Like he goes around like he does everything that's it's so weird. Like the scenes with him and his like he tells his wife, he's like, yeah, I can't stop. Like I'm in love with her. Even though, like, he's like, she is, I don't think she's like a person that's capable of emotions. Like, all she cares about is ratings. And he's like expecting his wife to give a shit about any of it. So it's like really, I don't know. I thought like, I guess there's irony in the fact that like he's the moral center, even though like what he's doing is completely immoral and selfish. But he's often like the adult in the room. And I really love, like, there's a scene between him and Faye Dunaway where, like, they're kind of breaking up. And I just love, it's like a really long, like, dialogue-driven scene between them where he's just kind of, like, pointing out her flaws. And like, he is fully acknowledging, like, he fully acknowledges and understands his own flaws. And I just found kind of that adult relationship stuff in the middle of this, like, crazy satire, like, really good, too.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I don't know how did like that like.
Well,
the whole cheating plot line land on you. Like I was into it. Like I was into those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, well, one, it starts off with her. Like the whole affair starts off with her showing up to his office trying to pitch, the show that they eventually do with Howard Beale, the Howard Beale Hour or whatever it's called, and she's basically like, hey, I will fuck you to get a piece of this show. She's basically throwing herself at him like, oh, I idolized you as a young journalism student and would love to get to know you better and all of that. And then he basically turns her down, and there's this neat scene where they're in Duvall's office and they fire Max. And he goes, is there something going on between the two of you? And she's like, not anymore.
Not anymore. He's not useful to me anymore. Yeah, I really like that.
And then she attends a funeral for like somebody that was at the station, I guess, somebody with the network. I think it was the president, actually, the network president. I think he dies, and he sees her there, and that's where they kind of rekindle that. And yeah, like that stuff's super fascinating because you actually see him going to his wife and explaining all of that, as you said. And then you get the whole scene where like she is fully engaged in her career. And the breakup scene is actually really neat because he's already packed. He's already ready to go. And she was like,
this was over. I knew this was over weeks ago.
Yeah,
you know?
It's just such like I just wanted to see where this would go. Like, will you go back to your wife? I mean, I'll try, but I think that
he'll be like Walter Rhodes. I'm back now.
Yeah, but like not like he seems more.
No,
he definitely seems more in tune with like. I could go back there, but I'm probably not. Like that's not going to work. I've broken my trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've broken her.
he was self-aware of everything all along. Like, he knew, and he was telling his wife, he's like, I just can't stop chasing this young pussy. and that's like, I know. He's like, I'm a fucking asshole. Like, about, and the blow up between him and his wife, like, I haven't seen a good marriage fight like that. There's an episode of The Sopranos called Whitecaps that is very famous for the blowout fight that happens between Tony Soprano and his wife, and like this kind of parts of this reminded me of that. Like, it's just such a good marriage fight where you're just like, it's just the two people that just like know everything about each other, just tearing each other apart, you know. But meanwhile, you have Howard Beale, who is now turned in. You said the Mad Prophet, but he's also like, Max recognizes pretty early on that, like, while he's saying all this cool shit, he's like mentally ill and he needs help.
Yes,
and like that's clear. It's like, honestly, anytime like Howard Beale says anything, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. But also I'm like, dude, that guy don't look good. Like, he starts to become clearly more and more disheveled as it's going on, and he's clearly like having serious mental health issues. But like, you know, the network, Robert Duvall, they don't care because it's all ratings. It doesn't matter. Like, his mental health is fucking not even a priority at all to them. The only person that cares is Spuddy Max. But he keeps getting worse and worse, and he finally goes on and gives this like rant about how the Arabs are now own the network, and the people have to stop this deal. Like, there's like some sort of deal going through, like, you know, that, you know, they'd be buying the network basically, and he tells his audience to put pressure on, you know, the SEC or whatever to stop the deal. And Duvall's like, oh fuck, I'm finished. But the actual, like you said, was the president of the company, played by Ned Beatty, brings him in, and then like I was like, where is this gonna go? And he just brings him in, and he gives an amazing speech about how, like, none of what you're saying fucking matters. Like, the world is run by money, and there is no country, there is no democracy. Like, this world is owned by the companies. Like, you know, he just lists, like, IBM, DuPont, whatever, right? And I was like, this is wild. Like, it just felt like now we're going into like almost like a fantasy realm, but like he is, you know, for as much of a truth teller as Howard Beale is, Ned Beatty was the real truth teller in this, right? Like, at least in my opinion, like, this is how the world works. He tells them, and what you're gonna do now is you're gonna go out there and you're gonna fucking tell them what I want you to tell them, which is that it's futile to fucking try to like do anything, right? Basically, isn't that kind of like what he tells them? Like, to start selling people.
Yeah, you're going to sell them on. And so, you're going to sell them on this new message that I have specifically picked out for you.
Yeah, like basically, tell your people this is how the world. Like, he's still kind of telling them the truth. In fact, he's telling them the real truth, and that they are powerless to do anything about it. So just accept it, right? Which is kind of the truth. Like, what are you going to do? But once he starts doing this, the show loses popularity. It goes down a couple, ratings percents or whatever the fuck, like however they, you know, the ratings dip a couple points. And this is one part I was kind of like getting to the ending here, where I was kind of like, okay, like Duvall is worried about this because he's trying to run a successful, like, you know.
Yeah, I thought this part was super fascinating because I imagine this is how it would actually go in a real, like a real network. Because Faye Dunaway's character, she's kind of the ratings guru behind programming, and she knows. She's like, well, you know, if you could stop it, like maybe we can flatline and hold them at this rating percentage. But if he's actually too far gone, and I think he might be too far gone, like you're just going to keep losing and losing and losing, and then there is no replacement. Like the other networks are going to have crept in, they're going to regain that spot, and we're not going to be able to do it. So what do we do?
Yeah, but it's weird because then they kick it up to Ned Beatty and like Ned Beatty's like, I don't give a fuck about the ratings. I like this guy out there giving the message, right? Like he's telling people that they're powerless, and I want that to be, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah.
But Duvall and Dunaway are so like invested in that ratings thing that they don't even care. And this is my interpretation of it. So like, if you want to like, if you have like a different take, let me know. But like, to me, they're like, okay, the boss is saying it doesn't matter, but like, this guy sucks now. He's not getting us the ratings. Like, they don't know or care about what the message is that he's sending. So they don't care about like the president's ultimate goal of like turning people into sheep and accepting, how the world is.
Exactly.
And so they're like, we gotta do something, man. Like, and they're like, very casually, like, well, let's just fucking assassinate him. You know what? We could get that one group that we're using for that other TV show, like this fucking radical left group.
It becomes a fucking
that she was
tie-in.
developing a TV show with. That's the other thing we didn't really touch on. That there's this whole like TV show she develops with these like left-wing radicals who are basically terrorists. Anyways, and then they're like
they hire
pay them off, and so while Howard Beale and they kind of intercut them planning this to it happening. Like it cuts back between like their plan and it happening, and they show like he gets assassinated by one of these people on ITV as he's doing one of his shows, and that's like the end of the movie. And I just at first, I guess I had to talk through it here on our podcast because like I think that's what it is. Is like they just like are such creatures of ratings that they don't understand why the president still wants them on the air no matter what.
Well, yeah, because the two of them are like Duvall is aiming for. Basically, he's aiming for Jensen's spot, like at some point. Like he wants to be the
yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah,
and the only way to do that is by like he has gained his spot on the board by bringing in like 22, 23, 25% profit since he took over. And Faye Dunaway is like literally she is just a metrics person. Like this is how we do this. This is what will work with the audience. This is where we'll get our ratings from. Like,
and she just gets off. Like she literally will talk about that while she's having sex.
Yeah,
like that's what makes her come is talking about like how she's gonna get ratings. So, anyways, that's Network. Chris, I really loved it. What did you think?
Yeah, I did too. I think like looking at the two, and when I watched Network first, and I was like, this was fucking like really neat, like really cool. And then comparing it to A Face in the Crowd, I'm like, I think that's a more entertaining movie, but this is like there's so much going on in Network that
I know.
It's super fascinating. It's terrifying that like this movie came out 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago at this point, I think. And it's like, why didn't we learn any of the right lessons from this film? Like instead, we allowed it to take over like news, and like you're seeing today, Vice and The Verge and all of that like closing down because we allowed people like Duvall to take over with money and like, hey, this can be profitable if you just let me try. And instead now news has just been decimated. The Washington Post, the New York Times are like shells of what they used to be. And their editorials are all paid by people. Like the people pay to get onto their editorial board to write shit. And it's like, this is awful. Like, why did we do this? The film though is great. Faye Dunaway, fantastic. William Holden,
everyone
great. Yeah.
The
cast was phenomenal. It's just super engaging across the board. And I just love like the little neat touches you see of them making like a TV show. Like you see, when Howard Beale walks in and he walks through the set, sits down, and then they push like the desk behind them, and like it closes off, so it looks like he's in an office, and it's like neat little touches on like television.
So I noticed that,
and it's like cool.
I did notice that. I noticed, I did notice. I can remember the exact shot you're talking about. He like walks all the way around to the left, and then comes back behind, into the set. I remember thinking that was cool. I always love this in movies when they show them sitting around the like big conference table, putting together the nightly news. Where they're like, all right, this segment is a minute 30. We need to chop like 10 seconds to make it a minute 20, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I love seeing like the sausage get made, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's super neat.
But I guess I'll let you. I mean, you kind of gave your final thoughts. You want to give a score? Or?
Yeah, I'm going with the same rating as Facing the Crowd. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. Both these films are phenomenal watches.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed these both, but like for me, Network even felt, for as much as I said A Face in the Crowd as an age, like Network felt like it could have came out today, except for the fact that it actually allows scenes to breathe and have long conversations between people, which maybe nowadays doesn't happen as much. But yeah, I think, horror movie or not, I think this is one of the best movies we've reviewed on this show. It's a 9.5 for me. Like, I fucking love Network.
All right,
Chris, you give the same rating to both.
I mean, for me,
make a choice.
I think I would, if you were like, hey, which one would you like to watch again? I think I would probably rather watch A Face in the Crowd.
Oh wow!
Again. But I mean, they're like neck and neck. I just think that Facing the Crowd is a little more entertaining on a moment-to-moment level for me.
Wow, I really enjoyed them both, but like, I just felt like Network, because it is more modern, felt more modern to me, and I thought like the adult conversations in it, like. And kind of like the craziness of it, it's definitely crazier than A Face in the Crowd. Face in the Crowd feels like something that could happen.
Yeah,
Network is like
Network. I think maybe it's the ending, like the whole fucking assassination of Howard Beale at the end is like the one. It's just like the bridge too far.
It's the dial is just turned up just a little bit on reality in Network, and I like kind of love that about Network, and that's why I go with Network, which puts it at a split. I did do a poll, didn't get many votes, but like they were 100% for Network, so Network wins this one. But I'm happy that we both enjoyed both movies, and I do think they do pair well together. This is a cool double feature you could do if you have not seen either of these movies. Chris, what do we have for next time?
So I told you last time I'm gonna bring the schlock, and I am. We're going back to 1991, and I don't know. I'm on a vampire kick, man. This might last all year, but I have
vampires.
So I've been meaning to watch this series. There's 5 films in it. It's called Subspecies. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So I've been meaning to watch that, and this will give me a reason to start this series. So the first film we're going to watch is the original film in that series, Subspecies, from 1991. Okay. And then I was like looking for, what can I pair with this? And I came across this other film called Children of the Night, also from 1991, also a vampire film. And we're going to do those two, and these are schlocky as hell from what I've seen of the trailers. I've never seen either one of these, but...
I've never heard of the second one. I've heard of Subspecies for sure. Like, I've either seen like the VHS at the store or something like that.
Yeah, I've
never heard of...
So Children of the Night, like, evidently it appeared, like, when it debuted, it was like the Toronto Independent, or Toronto Horror Fest or whatever, like, whatever their big... horror thing that they do up in Toronto in October. And people seem to really like it then. I don't know. I'm like looking at it. It's pretty schlocky.
Children of the Night, Pray for Dawn. Fangoria Films presents.
There's a couple different Children of the Night. So you're looking for the 1991 version.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I think. I mean, it's 1991, unless there's two of them that came out that year.
So.
No, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Both of these are on Tubi.
Okay.
So easy to watch that way. And yeah, we're gonna watch some schlocky vampire horror from the early 90s.
Well, Chris at least keeping it real and keeping it on topic. Whereas Rob, like, let's just do some.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Classic films. I think we had fun with them, but
yeah, they're good.
Chris bringing us back to our roots.
maybe I like overstepped it here with the absolute absurdity. I think these are both like direct to video films, but Subspecies has spawned 5 films, one of which just came out last year. So
that is also, I mean, that's the last drive-in. He picks these little gems out, so it's always fun. And you're like, what the fuck? By the way, Chris, they did like a Valentine's special for last drive-in, and they showed this movie called Freeway, which I had seen when it came out, but I didn't remember. Have you ever seen Freeway?
Let me see.
It's Reese Witherspoon,
yes.
And it's like a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, it's Kiefer Sutherland, right?
He's a serial killer. He's the wolf. You know, if you're going with the Little Red Riding Hood metaphor.
I have not seen it probably since like the mid 90s when it came out.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like I saw it when it came out. I remember thinking it was really cool back when I saw it, and then Joe Bob busts it out this last Valentine's Day, and I was like, honestly, dude, it starts off almost feeling like a trauma movie. Like, it's so bad, but then, like, it's actually good. Like, it's actually a good movie. And Reese Witherspoon, I think, gives, like, an Oscar-worthy performance. Like, it's really, like, kind of surprising how good the movie actually is.
Should go back and give that a shot, then?
Sure, man. I think that might be one that's on Tubi. I mean, it's for sure on Shudder, because they showed it on Joe Bob, but it's available, so to speak, and I might check out. There was a sequel with
really?
Natasha Lyonne. Yeah, the Poker Face girl.
Huh.
That I've never seen. That everyone who was watching Freeway was like, if you like this, you should see the second one. And it was kind of like the second one's terrible type recommendation, but like it's also crazier apparently, so I might give that a shot. But if you haven't seen Freeway since the 90s, give it another shot, Chris. It might surprise you.
Freeway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Trick Baby, yeah.
It's amazing. All right, I might have to give those a shot, and we could talk about them in our what we've been watching.
Sounds good, man. All right, we'll be back next month with more vampires.